Welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping straight into a classic, deeply moving story today. It's all about hardship, the cruelty of society, and the ultimate test of human character. Basically, it's a narrative where extreme weather crashes head-on with extreme human behavior, and it serves as this perfect, real-time case study for the cycle of karma.
We drop right into the absolute despair of our main guy, Diru. I am an orphan, I have no one. All my hard work washed away. That hits hard, right? It really sets our emotional baseline here. Diru is a day laborer dealing with crushing poverty and total isolation. He's venting to his amazingly supportive wife, Kajri, about feeling completely alone in the world. And to make things infinitely worse, they're trapped in this relentless, days-long rainstorm that is actively destroying the tiny bit of a life they've managed to scrape together.
So, Part 1. The struggle against the rain. Let's establish this physical environment, because the weather here isn't just some background scenery. It's practically an active villain.
Diru's misery escalates incredibly fast. Think about it. For an entire week, the rain simply does not stop, which completely shuts down his ability to do daily labor. By day 7, things go from bad to worse. The roof of their tiny home starts leaking right over the spot where they hid his hard-earned wages. The paper money literally tears and washes away. His savings? Completely ruined. So, totally destitute, by day 8 he's forced to drag himself out into this severe storm and practically beg the local wealthy landowner, Takor Durjan Pratap, for any manual labor he can get, no matter how dangerous the weather conditions are.
This brings us to Part 2, Cruelty from the Village, the psychological torment. Because honestly, the physical storm is perfectly matched by the cruelty of his very own community.
The villagers just relentlessly break down his spirit. They openly label him a menhus, which means a jinx or a cursed person. And why? Literally just because he's an orphan. The source material details how the locals genuinely believe that lacking relatives or social ties makes him inherently flawed. It's brutal. Even as he trudges through the storm to do honest, backbreaking work at Taker's warehouse, the locals are mocking him. This constant barrage makes Diru openly question what he could have possibly done to make everyone hate him so much.
Let's move to Part 3, the moral test, choosing empathy. You see, karma isn't just about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to the universe when you are at rock bottom. Just look at the extreme contrast between Diru's reality and his actual choices. In reality, he's facing extreme poverty, ruined wages, and a leaking, miserable roof. Yet, what does he do? Walking home, he stumbles upon a husband and wife, Rahman and Janki, stranded in the massive storm with nowhere to go. Despite having absolutely zero resources himself, Diru invites them into his home. And his wife Kadri? She doesn't even hesitate. She's actually thrilled to finally have guests. They offer incredible warmth, profound respect, and somehow Kadri manages to cook up a bunch of delicious dishes to feed these total strangers. When the strangers express shock at this wild level of hospitality, Diru and Kadri drop this profound reminder. Humanity is still a thing. Guests are a form of God. They consciously choose empathy over bitterness. Think about that. Treated like dirt by their own village, yet they treat strangers like absolute royalty. They're perfectly passing the moral test of the karma cycle.
Part 4. Unjust punishment. The breaking point. Because, as we know, before the reward of karma arrives, the test usually gets much, much harder.
So, Diru has been working non-stop in the freezing rain to support his wife and their new guests, and naturally, he develops a severe fever. But he goes to work sick just to survive. While he's hauling these heavy loads, his weakness gets the better of him. He slips and he drops a single sack of grain into the water, ruining it. Do the villagers help? Nope. Instead, they gleefully drag him right before his ruthless employer, Takur, just to ensure he gets severely punished. And Takur's punishment is just staggering. He doesn't just fire the poor guy, he demands exactly 3 sacks of grain as compensation for the single ruined sack. 3.
Which leads us to the most glaring question of all. How on earth can a penniless, sick outcast pay an impossible debt? It is a completely unjust demand. Thakur tells him not to even think about returning to work until he brings the money for 3 whole sacks. It leaves Diru and Kajri staring into the abyss, utterly hopeless, trapped in a leaking home with zero income and this massive, unpayable debt hanging right over their heads.
Moving on to Part 5, Strangers Revealed. The Truth. You remember those travelers they sheltered? Well, everything is about to flip. While Diru and Kadri are literally weeping in the next room over this impossible debt, Janki overhears them. And here's the twist. Raman and Janki are not poor stranded travelers at all. They're actually incredibly wealthy city merchants. We're talking vast businesses, land, serious money. So why the disguise? Well, they explain that they are rich in money, but totally poor in relationships. They have no real family, and they hid their wealth because they were terrified people would only love them for their cash. But after seeing Diru and Kadri's completely selfless love, they decide it's time to step in.
Part 6, Ultimate Reward. Reunited. This is exactly where Diru's enduring kindness finally triggers the cycle of karma.
The universe rewards them, and it happens fast. First, Raman reveals his wealth and hands Diru the cash to clear that ridiculous debt to Thakur forever. Second, after seeing Diru's incredible character firsthand, Raman offers him a lucrative partnership in his city business. Third, as they're getting ready to leave, Kadri gifts Diru a brand new kurta to wear for this amazing new life. And fourth, as Diru changes his shirt, something wild happens. A matching birthmark is revealed right on his neck.
Raman sees the mark and is absolutely stunned. Why? Because he has the exact same birthmark. The source narrative reveals that Raman's mother used to tell him about a brother who was lost a long time ago. The matching birthmarks on their necks prove Raman and Diru are long-lost brothers. The strangers they saved were actually Diru's own long-lost family. In an instant, Diru's lifelong identity as a cursed, unwanted orphan is completely erased. The very thing the village mercilessly mocked him for is solved by the very people he chose to save. No way, right?
Looking at the timeline, we finally see the complete, beautiful cycle. For 20 years, he lives as a rejected orphan. Then, during one terrible week of storms, he commits an act of totally selfless kindness to strangers, which is immediately followed by unjust suffering. But that very suffering reveals the truth, bringing us to the present day, reunited with family, wealth, and respect. Eventually, the source tells us, he goes on to earn more wealth and respect than even Thakur himself. His ultimate reward wasn't just the money, it was the family and belonging he was unfairly denied his entire life.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Does unwavering kindness in our darkest times always trigger the cycle of karma to bring its own reward? This explainer really highlights the incredible power of resilience, of deep empathy, and of simply doing the right thing when absolutely no one else will. When Diru was labeled a jinx and treated with pure cruelty, he responded with hospitality and grace, and it literally changed his destiny forever. Thanks for joining me to unpack this fascinating story.